And, a couple of local DJs began to play us there in Memphis. And finally, all the record companies started to say, who the hell is this band that's selling 10,000 units of their own album and has airplay and all this other shit in Memphis? Who are these guys? So one by one, they started to come, and we had Capitol Records and Atlantic Records and RCA Records and Interscope Records, and every one of them, Epic. One by one, they came, and they came and they would court us and fly us out to New York or Los Angeles and put us up in these beautiful hotels, and they promise you the world and say that everything's going to be, tits, and
right.
and then we would showcase in front of these guys in suits with their arms folded like this, and we would play our hearts out, and then they would come up and say, I think we're going to take a pass. And I was just like, after this happened like 4 or 5 times, I was just like,
it's like a punch in the gut every time, right?
Yeah, I was like, what the hell, man? The guy from Capitol Records was the one that hurt my feelings the most. He said they courted us really hard, and we had been warned. Somebody warned us. They said, be careful of the Capitol cold. And I said, what's Capitol cold? And they said, well, they come after you hot and heavy, and then they get cold feet right at the end, and you just need to be ready for that. And that had happened, like I said, 4 or 5 times. So I was pretty much ready for it. So they flew us out to Los Angeles. We, went to all these amazing dinners and went and watched the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl would have some significance later. I didn't understand why at the time, but we watched the Super Bowl, and we stayed at the Roosevelt Hotel, which Marilyn Monroe had stayed at. And it's my first time in Los Angeles, so I'm just baptized in all this, Hollywood-ism.
Sure.
And at the end of the showcase, they stood there with their arms folded and, their $5,000 suits. And we got off stage, and this English guy from Capitol walked up to me, and he said, good show, mate. He said, but you know what? Why should I sign you when I can go down the street and sign the next Jonathan Davis? And I said,
Wow.
Thank you. I said, you know what, sir? I appreciate your time. I appreciate you having us here, and we'll see you on down the road, brother.
Wow.
And that was that. So, by the time Island Def Jam came along, we were, or myself anyway, I had done got pissed about it. You know what I mean? I had become a bit disgruntled by that point. And,
understandable.
They came down and saw us. Rob Stevenson, one of their A&R people, came down and saw a show, and he was interested, and he's like, I'm going to take this back, and we're going to talk about it and everything. So next thing you know, I was on a conference call with my manager at the time, Brian Coleman, brilliant man, great manager with Union Entertainment, just an amazing manager, and the producer that we were working with at the time, Bob Marlette, incredible producer. We were on the phone with Rob Stevenson and their head of A&R and Leor Cohen, the CEO. And so my little baby nuts are like drawn up into my stomach at this point. So we go through this phone call, and the head of A&R guy, he said, well, you know what? He goes, we're going to fly you guys out to New York. We're going to put you up in a hotel, and we're going to rent a rehearsal space that all the big bands rehearse at, and we're going to set you guys up. I said, let me stop you right there. I said, I said, with all due respect, sir, I'm not bringing my guys to New York City. I'm not going to drag my band up to New York City and stay in some 5-star hotel just so you can rent a beautiful rehearsal space and we can go play our hearts out to a room full of suits with their arms folded just to tell us you guys pass. I'm not doing it. And I said, furthermore, I want you to come to me. I said, this is what I would like. I said, you come to Memphis. You let us sell out the Daisy and pack it with 1,000 kids that are literally ready to tear that place to the ground and set it on fire. And let me go out there and rock that fucking party for an hour and a half. And then you can tell me no. And there was like this long 30 seconds of silence. It felt like 30 seconds. It was probably more like 7 or 8, but there was this long silence. And then I heard Leor go, "We will do that." He was like this. He had like this Dolph Lundgren type. He's a Israeli special forces soldier,
right,
in his youth, and he has a Dolph Lundgren type voice, and he goes,
"Right,
Josey, we will do this. We will come to Memphis, and we will watch you rock the fucking party at the Omni New Daisy on Deal Street." And I was like, on the other end of the phone, I was like, dude, you just either ended your career or shot it out of a cannon. So thank God they took, that answer and came down to Memphis, and they watched us play, and we blew up the spot. And the next thing you know, they had contracts on the table, and the lawyers were going back and forth. And I was like, well, let's just sign the damn thing. Our lawyer was like, no, this is
slow down.
Let's just slow down, take a beat here.
Yeah.
We go. He said, they offer, then we offer, then they offer, then we rebut, then they offer. He goes, this is a normal thing. He goes, it'll probably go on for 3 weeks or a month, and we'll get it done. Don't worry about it. The deal's on the table. It's, the deal's on the table. So I just tried to, keep myself calm, cool, and collected. And then they sent the record deal was okayed, and they overnighted it to my house, and they lost the contract in post, dude. The post people lost the freaking contract, and I was literally chewing my fingers down to my knuckles, dude, worried about this. So little things like that always have happened, and probably everybody's career, but certainly mine. Those moments where you, like my lawyer said one time, he said, Josey, he said, it's like we're snake bit. But finally got the deal, and everything went through, and the rest is history.
Yeah, you guys had a hell of a run. Eight albums, Grammy nominated. I mean, big tours. What actually led to you leaving the band?
I think I wasn't, like my mom said, like I say in the lyrics of Click, Click, Boom, I say, why is my mother always right? And she had warned me, she said, be careful for what you ask for. She told me she'd always say these prophetic things at key moments in my life. And the night we got signed or whatever at the Daisy, she said, she looked me right in my eyes, and she put her hands on my face, and she said, nothing will ever be the same after tonight. And she was right. Nothing was the same. But I got to a point where the be careful what you wish for thing started to bite me in the ass a little bit. We just weren't ready for fame, man. And we weren't ready for money. We weren't ready for all these accoutrements that come with, you know, with being in a popular American rock band. We thought we were, you know.
Sure.
You always think you're ready, you know. You think you can handle these things, and you're like, you know, bring it the fuck on. Let's do this. Let's do the damn thing, you know.
Sure.
And it the you know, the party happened, and we just didn't know when to leave the party. We never knew. Nobody teaches you these things out of the gate, and we just got under the wheels of you know, litigation and money and percentages, and it just becomes this whole other animal that it wasn't in the beginning. In the beginning, it was about the music, and it was about the nucleus of the band, and it was about your influences, and it was about your first love, and this beautiful puppy that you just petted and took care of. And there towards the end, it was like it was like that movie Tommy Boy, when he takes the muffin or the roll, and he's like, "You kill it."
Yep.
Chris Farley, I love Chris Farley, man.
Oh yeah,
sweet soul. And that's what happened. You know, that's what happened. The short answer is, you know, and I can't speak for the other guys in the band. You know, Dave fought valiantly through that. He was a good businessman. Dave Novotny, the bass player, he was good at keeping our books balanced. You know, he was. I trusted him. You know, and still trust him to this day. You know, he sort of divvied out the money at the end of the night, and you know, he did the best he could. He kind of got under the wheels of the bus a little bit. You know, Paul as well, Chris Baldo as well, and Wayne Sweeney as well. But like I said, I can't speak for their journey. The four of them have their own journey, and they're survivors in their own right. Certainly, Wayne Sweeney and Paul Crosby are just, you know, flourishing these days, and I'm so proud of them and so supportive of them. But I think for that moment in time, we were riding the bus, and then we were under the bus. And for me, you know, I was dealing with, like I said earlier, I was dealing with my mental health. I didn't know how to navigate that still. You know, I was still sort of finding my legs. As far as my mental health went, and then you throw drugs and alcohol into that situation, and it just became I just became a dumpster fire, you know, after a while. And I was trying to keep my marriage together. You know, got married in 2004, and during the heat of all this fame and everything happening with Saliva, I was trying to keep my marriage together, which is hard, you know, trying to keep a 5-way marriage together with the band, and trying to keep a 2-way marriage together at home.
Sure.
And I knew I didn't want to lose my wife, because I've been in love with her since the day I met her. So I didn't want to lose her. And, you know, we were having children. We had my son Justice in 2006, and he's 16 now. And we had 2010, we were pregnant with a little girl, I think is what changed things for me. I had always wanted a little girl. I had 3 boys, and I just always wanted a little girl. And once I knew a little girl was on the way, I knew that was the bell tolling for me.
Perspective changes immediately, right?
Yeah, my
Yep.
my perspective just blew up, and I was like, I've got to step back from this if I want to live. I just had this my mother called it this knowing inside me that said, if you want to live, if you want to survive this, you're going to have to step away and let go of what you love the most, and step back and get healthy and make some choices for your children, because I believe once we have children, we lose the luxury of just doing whatever the hell we want. And for my children, I wanted to take a step back and, get healthier and spend more time with my wife, spend more time with my children, save my marriage. And it's the smartest decision I ever made. I wouldn't change it. I'd do it 1,000 times.
No, that's you made the right sacrifice. That's for sure. So let's talk about you and Chad Kroger hooked up with in 2003 and came out with a little tiny song called Hero, which wound up extremely blowing up. I mean, that was the song. It was off the Spider-Man soundtrack. How did you guys hook up together? How did you guys come together on that?
Well, Leor Cohen again was, such an instrumental force in both our careers. Chad being on Roadrunner Records at the time, and him being the CEO of our label, he had this idea. He goes, what if we get their biggest rock band and our biggest rock band and put the singers together and see what they can come up with? And so I got the call out on the road, and they were like, do you want to fly up to Canada on your next couple of weeks off and hang out with Chad Kroger from Nickelback? And Leor wants to see if you guys can maybe write a song together. There's a opportunity with Sony Records with the Spider-Man soundtrack. And if you guys can write a decent song, there's a possible opportunity there to get it on that soundtrack. And they already had their lead single. I believe it was a song by Sum 41. It was like a punk rock song.
Yep.
And they already had their lead single. They were already ready to push that record. They just wanted another song to go along with that soundtrack to Spider-Man. I was like, hell yeah. I was like, man, I've been a Spider-Man fan since I was knee high to a grasshopper, dude.
Right,
I'm all about it. And so I flew up to Vancouver, which is just a breathtaking town. I love that city so much. God, it's beautiful. And they have the best sushi. I learned from hanging out with Chad that the freaking sushi there is just ridiculous. And so we met in the studio there in Vancouver. We tried a couple of different ideas. He wanted to do something like a derivative of Click Click Boom. He wanted to do like another Click Click Boom. And I was not completely opposed to that, but I was just like, well, I've done that. I don't want to do that again. I want to do something different. I was like, if you got anything, that you're working on that's a little bit different. And he goes, well, I got this one song. He goes, but the guys in Nickelback hate it and they don't want to do it. And he goes, I think it's pretty cool. He goes, but it's an acoustic song. I said, shit, let's hear it, And he played me the meat and potatoes of Hero. And I was like, holy shit. I was like, this is pretty special, man. This could be this sounds like something that would be on a superhero movie soundtrack. It reminded me of, I remember when Batman came out with Val Kilmer, that song by Seal, Kiss from a Rose.
Yeah.
Came out, and I remember going to the theater and seeing that song being played while the credits rolled, and I was just like, oh man, it was just such an emotional impact on me as a wannabe songwriter. And when I heard that Hero, like I said, the meat and potatoes of Hero for the first time, I called, opened the door to the studio, and I screamed for my A&R guy, Rob Stevenson. I was like, Rob, you got to get in here, man. You got to hear this. So we played it again, and the record company people were blown away and really loved it. And then and Chad was like, well, let us play around with it for a while and knock this thing together. So we, got all the harmonies the way they were supposed to go, and picked out all our parts, and what he was going to do and what I was going to do. And because we were going to try to do it, I was like, this has got to be a duet, like Conway Twitty and Loretta Lynn. I was like, I get to be Conway Twitty. You have to be Loretta. No, but we fooled around with it for probably another hour or two, and then it was slamming. It was to the point where we were like, well, let's, we had access to the studio the whole night. We were like, let's lay this fucker down, man. Let's record this. Yeah. And we spent the rest of the night. We were up to like, 2 or 3 or 4 in the morning, recording the demo, just the demo of Hero, and got all the harmonies perfect and all the parts, and then we sent it off to those people at Sony, and I really wasn't ready for the reaction that Sony had. They were ready to stop the presses and throw away all the albums that they had printed so far. They just got rid of them like magic, and then reprinted them with Hero as the lead single. And I was just like, what is happening, man? What the fuck just happened? And so then some crazy stuff happened in my career. Of course, I was my own worst enemy and couldn't get out of my own way, and got full of drugs and alcohol or whatever one night, got into a fight. And the next day, the label was like, you got to go to rehab, bro. You got to go get cleaned up. You at least got to go take a break and get cleaned up.
Sure.
And I was young and running wide open, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And, as my daddy would say, like a case knife, I was wide open. And so I said, I'll do it. I was like, but can you get my idol on the phone to tell me, to help me, to help me get into rehab? They were going to send me to Promises out in Los Angeles, mm-hmm. which ended up being a really nice rehab. Nothing I could have ever afforded.
Sure.
And so next thing you know, I get off the phone with the label. 5 minutes later, I'm sitting there with my son, and we're watching a Disney movie. I was spending some time with my son, Cody, that passed. And 5 minutes later, the phone rings, and I pick up the phone, and dude goes, yeah, man, this is Nikki Sixx. I just wanted to call and talk to you a little bit and see how you're feeling. And I was like, no fucking way, man. Wow. No way is this Nikki Sixx, dude. And we just began to talk to each other, man. And he is one of the kindest, most giving individuals that I ever have had the pleasure of running across in this life, man. you know, he was my idol growing up, and I had his posters in my room, and I wanted to be him. I did my hair just like him and wore my leather pants and ripped up shirt just like him. I even I would put 2 black stripes under my eye like him. And then to get to talk to him on the phone in such a vulnerable place in my life.
Sure.
And for him to be so kind and giving and delicate with me was just such a blessing, man. And I'll never forget it. I will always owe my life to Nikki Sixx, because he made it so easy. He told me, he goes, dude, don't worry about nothing. He said, go pack a bag. He said, pack you some comfortable pajama-like clothes, bring some sneakers, and, you know, pack you enough cigarettes to get through 30 days. And he goes, go to the airport there in Memphis. He goes, there's a plane ticket waiting on you. He said, all you got to do is get on the plane, brother. Just pack your little bag, go get on the plane. He goes, wow. And I will be on the other end of that plane in Los Angeles to receive you, and I will take you to Promises and deliver you myself. And, you know, we became, you know, really close buddies after that, you know, and hearing everything that he had been through with drugs and alcohol. And, you know, this was before the Heroin Diaries or The Dirt had came out. So
right.
He gave me, you know, like an up close and personal preview of what that was going to consist of, and what that was really like for him. And my issues were a walk in the woods compared to Nikki's. And
right. Yeah. He's been through a lot.
I just never, you know, he had died like 5 or 6 times and was revived there at Cedars-Sinai in Los Angeles. And they got so used to Nikki coming in dead. They were just like, oh, here we go again. Nikki Sixx.
He got a frequent flyer card from them.
He did. He had a frequent flyer card to the afterlife, I think.
I think so.
But yeah, like I said, no, you will not meet a more kind, giving, loving, genuine, real person than Nikki Sixx, man.
So let's bring us right to today's time. New brand, new bands. Tell us about, how am I going to put this? Tell us about the new Josey Scott 2.0.
Well, I'm working on this new project called Shade Violent, and it's a collection of some friends of mine here where I live in Oklahoma, and my stepson Dylan is Dynamite Delone is my rhythm guitar player, and we're just in the process of writing a record right now, and we're just now getting in the studio and starting to figure some things out. We've done a couple of shows, you know, a couple of startup shows, a couple in Tulsa, and we're going to do a little run through Texas, I believe, and we had to cancel some shows because of COVID up in Ohio and Indiana, Michigan, up at the Machine Shop. A shout out to the Machine Shop. I love those guys. I hated to have to cancel that show. Fucking COVID, man. It's been awful.
Yeah, it's definitely.
I hate even having to say that word.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're just getting it together and sort of sussing things out. And I just want to. I want my mission is to get back to that kid in Memphis that as one of my favorite producers, Malcolm Springer in Nashville, said, where's that kid that used to run around with the green notebook full of lyrics under his arm and the backpack and the black blazer? Where's that kid at? And that's exactly where I'm trying to find my way back to that kid. I'm trying to find my way back to that first love, why I fell in love with music in the first place, and why I think music is so beautiful and so moving, and it's a chance. I'm working with Scatterbrains, a producer out of Nashville.
Yep.
And he told me, he said this is an opportunity for you to tell your story. He said that's what this is about. At 50, when you've gone through the arc of your first arc of a musical career, and you've done some wonderful things, and you've been through some horrible things. And he said it's time for you to tell your story.
There you go.
And I think that's my mission, is to get back to why I fell in love with music in the first place, and to tell my story and to join those two hands together.
Well, I definitely appreciated you, hanging out and telling your story with me. I've had a blast with this so far. So
Yeah,
getting back to the album, you guys said you're working on it. Is there any timeline for the album being done, or are you just kind of
not at the moment? I mean, we're just sort of, taking it fast and loose. We're not really putting a time limit on it. I would like to get it out over the next 3 to 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely planning on dropping a single in the next 3 or 4 months, definitely. But I just want to pay more attention to the music and make sure that everything is right and perfect this time, because it's a privilege and an honor to kind of finally be in the driver's seat and be the captain of my own soul,
There you go.
And not have to answer, to the whims of others,
Sure.
what I mean? Yeah. Which I'm not bad mouthing that in any kind of way. I just want a chance, like I said, to tell my story.
And then, so are you guys going to start doing more dates touring wise, just to kind of work the music out, or?
Yeah, I mean, we been playing a couple of startup shows, just getting all the back catalog tight, getting
Mm-hmm.
all the hits, and we're possibly going to do. I'd like to do maybe a Blackbone song. I'd like to do some Saliva songs.
Mm-hmm.
that I was privileged enough to write with the guys.
Sure.
And then I want to play the new stuff as well.
So listen,
sort of have a then to now sort of thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's like a catalog of your music career. That'd be great.
Absolutely.
Josey, listen, man, I have taken way too much of your time as it is. I'm sure your PR lady's gonna probably kill me for taking all this time, but
no, man, I had a great time, Buzz. Thank you for having me.
Dude, I did too, brother. I can't. It's you're an easy dude to talk to, and hopefully you will. Hopefully you come back and do it again, because we can talk tour stories and the whole 9 yards. I mean, we didn't even talk about your appearance. You had some appearances in movies and TVs, but so that'll be the question I'll save for hopefully next time if you want to come back.
Absolutely,
that'd be cool.
Absolutely, I'd love to, man. I loved talking to you, Fuzz. You're an easy guy to talk to, and I had a great time. Thank you.
No, I appreciate that, Josey. Folks, you guys can keep your eye out for Josey Scott's new project. It's Shade Violent. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. Hopefully sooner rather than later. Look for big things from you, Josey, and looking forward to the new music. For more info, guys, you can go to facebook.com. And I'm not sure if I have these right, so if you correct me if I'm wrong, facebook.com/Josey Scott Music.
Josey Scott Rocks.
Josey Scott Rocks. Okay, I'm sorry. I read the wrong one. And YouTube is Josey Scott Music.
Yeah, I believe the YouTube is Josey Scott Rocks too.
Is it? Okay.
We've sort of transitioned it all into Josey Scott Rocks.
Gotcha. So JoseyScottRocks.com, that website still good?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So that's probably got all the links to it. Go check that out, guys, and look for big things from Josey coming soon. I can't wait to hear it, brother. Listen, please come back sometime. We'll talk again, man.
Absolutely, Fuzz. Thank you for having me, brother.
Been my absolute pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, Josey Scott. Thanks, Josey.